So friend, you can see this is a form and some data is filled inside that input box, and here is the save button. So let's save those data in mysql db. So when I click on save, API is called, and this is the mysql database. And when I call the select a star from gps.grant table, actually this is a table where we insert the data. So let's call this query, and you can see the data is inserted what we filled inside the input form, input boxes. So this is the data, and this is the same data saved inside db. So between a database and this ionic application, we have a middleware, that is API. So this is the API basically, and this API is called, basically it received the data, it received the JSON data through a post API, post property, and this is the key where the data is stored when we call the API. So in data key, we have the JSON which we send to the API. JSON is basically the input boxes values in basically it we collect the all the values in an object and convert in JSON, and we send to the this API. So this way we retrieve those JSON value, and this JSON is converted into an object, that is JSON using JSON decode method, and it just stored inside a obj variable. And this is the local DB connection string of MySQL. You can change if you deploy this API on the server. It's based on your requirement. So, and here we create the mysql object and pass the credentials, a connection string, host, user, password, db, port, and this is the query at gps.grant. You can see, and this is the grant table, and we use the query insert into gps.grant. This is the column and this is the values. Actually the values are inside the object, and we retrieve all the properties and bind to the appropriate columns. So after this we just call the con query method and pass the query, and if it returns true, then record is inserted, otherwise it returns the error, and at the end we close the connection. So this is the API which is responsible to insert the data inside database, and this API is called from this ionic app. So you can see we use the HTTP client to call the API, and simple we have this method, this one. Actually we stored we use the form data, and we append the data object data in JSON format in the data key, and this is the API URL, and this is the headers, and finally we call the HTTP post method. We pass the URL object and response type is text, and finally we call the method. So this way we can call the API from any cap and insert data into MySQL. Hope it helps. This is the basic overview of all the workings. So thanks for the time.